I'm so excited for this, guys. Today we have a very special guest, Amy Eiges. Amy is a health coach at Dr. Tro's Medical Weight Loss and Primary Care. She's not only a health coach, though, but a living testament to the possibilities of the ketogenic diet. Through this approach, she achieved remarkable results, shedding over 225 pounds, reversing prediabetes, and overcoming lifelong depression. She's passionate about guiding individuals towards a healthier life through the power of the ketogenic lifestyle. Amy, welcome to the Ketones and Coffee podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Amy, I watched the video that you sent me. We talked about this before we went live, and it was so inspiring. And I'm glad that we get to cross paths today because I truly believe that um, you are going to help so many people. And once they hear your story, it's going to touch their heart, and the mind opens up to possibilities. It's a powerful thing. Love your story. I believe that they have to hear your story. So tell us the backstory of how this all came to
Sure.
be for you.
Yeah. So I can remember being overweight for it's from my earliest memories, right? I remember tagging along with my mother to a Weight Watchers meeting. I was like 3 or 4 years old. I wasn't a member at that age, but I remember I was so young that I knew my letters, but I
Mm,
couldn't spell because I remember the woman that weighed in my mother looked me up and down and spelled something to my mother. And I knew at that point that she was calling me fat, even though I
mm,
couldn't even spell. But I remember asking my mother when we left, like, what's a word that means fat that starts with an O, right? And I was 3 or 4 years old at the time. I was already overweight, and I my parents would have done anything to help me lose weight. I went on countless diets, and then as an adult, I went to countless so-called
mm,
experts, and I calculated not that long ago, I calculated I joined Weight Watchers over 35 times over the course of my
mm,
life. It was just an endless stream of diets and so-called experts and nutritionists and doctors and programs and new diets and new books and new fads and new I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't figure it out. I was smart. I had some resources available to me. I grew up outside of New York City, so there we had all of New York experts to help. I couldn't figure it out. And I literally woke up every day thinking, what am I doing today to lose weight? It was the first most prevailing thought I had every
mm,
single day. And the irony of all of that is that I actually dieted my way to over 400 pounds.
mm,
And I was somewhere between 300 and 400 pounds for my entire adult life. Before just as I discovered low carb and a ketogenic diet, I'd heard about it before, but just as I started, I was about to turn 50. So for the better part of so I was an adult from 2018 on. So for 30 years, I was at or over 400 pounds. And despite my trying so hard every day to lose weight, and I didn't think it was the right choice for me, but I thought, let me just get bariatric surgery
mm,
because let me just try to become a smaller fat person. Honestly, that was my goal. It was really just to be a more normal sized overweight person. Um, and I knew that bariatric surgery was a terrible choice for me, but I just didn't see any other way out. And I thankfully did a random Google search. I
mm.
came across low carb and I thought, I had 2 weeks before I was meeting with the surgeon. I thought, let me give
Do you
this a
remember the
try.
search? Sorry.
What the website?
Yeah. Do you remember
Yeah, it
the
was
search?
I do. I don't really want to promote the site now
Mm,
because I don't really
okay.
love. I mean, it's probably one that a lot of people know for keto, but they have since changed their philosophy a little bit, and it bums me out. So I don't really want to
Okay. Okay.
promote them, but it's probably one that many people know.
Mm,
And it was an incredible website at the time. They have since they're going a little low fat for my taste,
mm.
and I don't really,
Yeah.
I don't love it. So, but it was a very helpful site. It still has a great resource. It's just that if I found that site now, I'm not sure that I would have had the success that I
Mm,
have. So, a little less ketones and a little more protein, so to speak. So, but I thought, let me try it for 2 weeks and see. before I was meeting with the surgeon. And I was over 400 pounds. I certainly didn't lose enough weight in those 2 weeks to make a real dent, even in the amount of weight that I had to lose. But I could feel a real internal shift from all the other diets that I had tried. And I was really terrified of the surgery, of having bariatric surgery. I knew in my heart of hearts that it wasn't for
Mm.
me. It wasn't going to solve my drive to eat problem. And so I knew it wasn't the right choice for me. Um, so but I could feel in the 2 weeks on a ketogenic diet, I could feel there was a real shift. And I canceled the appointment with the surgeon,
Yeah.
and I haven't looked back. I've lost,
Mm.
as you said, I've lost 220 something pounds over the
Wow.
last, and kept it off for the last, I don't know,
Wow.
7 years
Mm.
ish, 8 years almost. Yeah,
I love it. I want to
that's the story.
Wow, I want to be able to break this down to people, but I also want to say no matter where you are right now, to the listeners, especially if you are struggling, there's always a greater purpose for you, right? Don't think for a second that you are going to be one way, right? Amy did what she could, tried to no avail, right? Almost. But if you just keep going on, you'll eventually find a way, and that's what she did. So let's break this down. So
Sure.
I also um read on your story that there was a point that when you also lost your mom, and I'm sorry for that too. That
Thank you.
that was also a moment, right, for you, isn't it? Um, you've always tried to lose weight, as you said, tried everything, but this time, I think that was one of the major things that one made you to create that change. What was so different at the time that you were willing to consider again bariatric surgery
Hmm.
and then something like the ketogenic diet, right? What do you think has pushed you? What was your thought process? If you can share that to people, because
Yeah.
yeah.
So my mom passed away very suddenly,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a result of type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
She had heart failure, and it was and
Mm-hmm.
she died very suddenly and very unexpectedly. And at the time, I had pre-diabetes. I was over 400 pounds. It was only the handwriting was on the wall. It was only a matter of time before I was going to develop full blown diabetes. And I knew that if I didn't get a handle on this,
Mm-hmm.
that I was going to suffer the same fate. And so once I kind of went through the grief process and kind of dealt with that, with renewed vigor, I went back to Weight Watchers because that was the smart, sensible
Mm-hmm.
way to go. That was what I was told was the just go back to Weight Watchers. And once again, I failed and failed and failed again. So it took me a little while to discover sort of till I discovered a ketogenic diet. But
Mm-hmm.
I um, I just was motivated because I knew this was not the life that my mother would have wanted for me, but also there was no doubt that I was going to be dealt the same
Mm-hmm.
blow if I didn't take care of my health. And by the time I kind of did get started with, like, moving around was harder, and it just was, it just became, it just became my life just felt terribly
Mm-hmm.
impinged upon, and it was just time. It was time.
Mm-hmm.
I got just sick and tired of
Yeah.
of all of it. Um, and so that's why I just was about to take the drastic step of having surgery,
Mm-hmm.
because I just didn't see any other way out. And I grew up in a time where everything was low fat, right? It was Snackles cookies and
Yep.
pretzels and pasta and bagels were all no fat, and Twizzlers were no fat, and
Mm-hmm.
those were fun. Those were considered, oatmeal was a health food. And so the one diet I never really considered was Atkins or a ketogenic diet or anything like it, because I thought you'll have a heart attack from eating all that bacon and butter and
Yep.
steak. And the irony is I don't eat a lot of I eat a lot, a fair amount of steak, but I don't eat bacon all that often. I
Mm-hmm.
don't throw tons of butter on my food now, um, it's the irony is that it was the one diet that I didn't try all those years, because everybody
Yeah.
said Atkins was a quack.
Yeah. Yeah. Many people struggle with the dieting cycle and find it hard to break free. So once you got on the ketogenic diet, what was so different about it that allowed you to stay consistent, do you think?
Yeah, so I've taken the keto my journey with keto, I've taken it in phases. I didn't start out taking it in phases, but it has kind of unfolded that way. And I would say when I first started, it was really important. And even now, as a health coach, I think it is really important to not limit fat early on because you are eliminating a fair chunk of your diet. And probably, I'm presuming that by getting rid of carbs, you're eliminating a fair amount of your diet. And so the fat is very satiating, it's very filling. It allows your body to kind of just stay full for longer periods of time until you become fat adapted, meaning your body becomes efficient at burning fat for fuel. And so it was really important for me early on. And also, it tastes damn good. So it was sort of helpful to
Yeah.
keep me, my brain was happy, my palate was happy, and
Mm.
my stomach was happy
Mm-hmm.
with the higher fat. As I have leaned out, I have had to change that a bit, but I didn't know that then. At the time,
Mm.
it was just I was eating um, really
Mm.
satiating, delicious foods and just putting one foot in front of the other.
Awesome. When do you think that, when was that turning point where you consider the ketogenic diet to be the lifestyle? Because you've been on like different diets and you knew you've been in and out of diets, but
Yeah.
when did you realize that okay, keto is becoming your lifestyle, like long term?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when the shift was, but it was really, it kind of was a big weight kind of lifted off my shoulders when I did make that transition. I think it was probably about a year or two in where I thought, oh, wow, you're really doing this.
Mm.
And you feel so much better, not just like I stopped focusing really like honing in on like how much weight did you lose, how much, but I was like, oh, wow, you really feel good.
Right.
And, and I thought I really can foresee a world in which you'll be doing some version of this the rest of your life. Now, does that mean that I'm gonna if I go to Paris on vacation? Does that like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't I hadn't sort of reconciled myself to like you're never going to eat this again, you're never going to eat that again, but I thought you're going to be this is going to be your baseline forever.
Mm.
And when I made that transition in my head, when I kind of, it was, as I said, it was a big weight lifted off my shoulders. Like, oh, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to like kill myself to lose weight faster than
Mm.
anybody else or I just need to put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And it was like, oh, right, I don't have to start another diet. I don't have to start another program. I don't have to, I've had to make adjustments along the way, but I don't, I'm doing some version of keto forever.
Mm. So you talked about just feeling good. Could you share any other immediate changes that you've noticed starting on, following the diet? How did it
Yeah.
feel, the experience?
So, yeah. So my cravings for um for higher my just cravings in general, my drive to eat completely
Mm-hmm.
changed and almost immediately. That was sort of what I now I understand why that happened so quickly in that first couple of weeks. My blood sugar was stabilized. I wasn't kind of riding that blood sugar roller coaster of
Mm-hmm.
cravings and hunger and then eating something carby and then cravings again, like it's just never getting off that roller coaster. So that was the biggest thing that I noticed. And then pretty quickly, like my inflammation went down, my joints didn't hurt as much, my knees didn't hurt. I had severe eczema for years. Like the dermatologist could not figure out for the like tried everything topical, antibiotics, everything you could possibly think of, they threw at it, and
Mm-hmm.
it just kept getting worse and worse. Within 2 weeks on a ketogenic diet, gone. And if I
Mm.
eat something like if I eat like something carbier for more than like a couple bites, it comes back almost immediately now. But it was gone after like 2 weeks of just years of struggle, of suffering with it. It was gone. Just so many things. And that doesn't even include my blood work, which is pretty damn healthy at this point. As you said earlier on, like I reversed prediabetes
Yeah.
insulin resistance and all that.
Yeah, talk about that. I mean, how when did you realize that you were, because you didn't intend to reverse your diabetes at that point, right? Because you intended just to lose weight. When did
Well,
you? Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to lose weight, but given my mother's history and that I was already pre-diabetic, I
Mm,
knew if I kept going on the same path that I would be full-blown diabetic within a few years, right?
mm,
So, um, it was in the back of my mind, but first and foremost, if I was to be honest, it was really to be a smaller fat person, right? To
mm.
be a normal size obese person, right? So I'm sorry, your question was like about the my health, the
Yeah, yeah.
diabetes.
No, if
Yeah.
when did you? Because you didn't intend to uh, reverse your pre-diabetes, but how did you react to just all of these great things going on for you? I mean, from like just wanting to lose a little bit of weight to losing, at this point you probably at this point you lost 200 pounds, um and then all of a sudden you're also reversing pre-diabetes and depression. Like, what was going on? Are you researching what's going on? Because for me, when I started a ketogenic diet, I was so boggled my mind, because I couldn't keep up, because I there's so many things going on. My energy is up, my mood, also my I have depression, major depression at the time, 6 7 years ago, and my mood is lifting, my symptoms of depression lifting. So I don't know what was going on. So I was reaching out to people, because Google is not giving me what I was wanting it to say. So I was looking for people who had great success on the ketogenic diet, and I want to ask them. um and they respond back to me, and it became this community. I joined the community. So I just want to know what was going through your mind. All of this is happening, and I know you said you've had this condition for, ever since you were a child, and now all of a sudden you started a ketogenic diet and you're reversing pre-diabetes, depression, and what were you doing at that point? I could imagine you were overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, it was I threw myself into sort of everything that I could possibly read and
Mhm,
listen to, and Facebook groups and other communities, because I think many of us that do start a ketogenic diet, we're kind of not as much right now, but when you and I first started, we were kind of outliers. Like,
mhm,
there was not a lot of people talking about it, or not nearly as many as now. I mean, you really had to like search the internet to just to come up with some information about it,
mhm,
to get support and to join communities. And
yeah,
one of the things that I love about my job now is just being part of a community of
mm,
people that are like-minded, that a place to come to get good information. Because when I first started, there was so much conflicting information out there,
yeah,
and there still really is. Some people do say do this and do that and do high carb and do high fat and then do high protein, and that's partially why I don't really like to promote other people's websites, because there's so much bad information out there, even among the low
mhm,
carb people. So I love that, like Dr. Tro and myself, we're just kind of spearheading this community of people. We can give good information,
mhm,
um, and really encourage people on their journey. He's lost 150 pounds, kept it off. I've lost 200 and something pounds. Brian Wiley, who's another health coach, has lost 100 pounds and kept it off for like 15 years. Alice is another health coach. She's kept off 60 pounds, I think. We have another health coach who's starting, Vic, who's lost 100 pounds. Like, we have all walked the walk. So um, it's just really nice to be part of a community of people now, to give back to, because so many
mm.
people were so generous with their time for
Yeah.
me, that I'm so happy to be able to give it back now. I
So
don't
you,
know if that answered your question,
yeah,
but
yeah, no, yeah, it is, because I wanted to ask you, because I wanted to let people know what, how amazing the ketogenic diet is, because for me it was within 3 months. Like, I've been suffering with depression for 3 years at that point, and it was almost instantaneous, right?
wow.
3 months, moods lifting. and I don't know what's going on, right? At this point, I'm like, what's going on? I have so much energy, and my mood is good for, and it's stable, right? So it's not up and down. So I'm like, what's going on? Um, I went, searching on Google, and obviously it spews like uh, negative stuff. So I'm like, that's not true. I feel good, right? So I reach out to people, and that's why I asked you what's going on at the time, and thank you for answering that. You mentioned that on your story, you weren't extraordinary, but someone who received that right guidance. You talk about surrounding yourself with the right people, Dr. Tro, people who has had great success on this lifestyle. Can you tell us more about, the guidance and support that played that crucial role in your journey? Um,
Yeah. So, yeah, and as I said earlier, like it's when I first started, my friends and family were really worried about me. They thought
mm,
you are going to have a heart attack from all that butter and steak and from eating such a high fat diet, and they didn't quite understand it. So it was really important for me to have a community of people. And I was about a year or two into my journey, and I
mm,
needed a doctor. I needed some guidance. I was sort of starting to waver. I was struggling a little bit, and I needed a doctor, just as a for health purposes, and I wanted somebody to run my lab work to see if I was the pre-diabetes was improving and all that. And
mm,
so I reached out. I met Tro at a conference, at a low carb conference, and he could not be kinder or more empathic. And I engaged him to become my doctor, and then I saw my lab work improve, and he taught me a slightly different way of low carb. As I said, he himself has lost and
mm,
kept off 150 pounds of weight loss. So he kind of knew what it was like to walk around in shoes and feel just the weight of that on
mm,
your, like the literal weight and the figurative weight
mm,
of being obese. He understood what that was like. And so, yeah, it's been really an amazing process to just, I was his patient and now I work for him, and
mm. Wow.
I'm a health coach. I changed my
Yeah.
career, become a health coach because I was so, quite frankly, I was so pissed off when I realized how much bad information I was given
Yes.
from so many doctors and so many so-called experts for decades that I thought I can't correct the next, if God
Mm,
willing, 30, 40 years of my life. I can't correct the
mm.
last 50, but I
Yeah.
can make sure that the next however many years I have left, I can
Mhm,
help as many people as possible not have the be given the bad information that I was given. So I'm also a
mhm.
program director for Tro's Practice, and I
Wow.
work on programs, and we have an amazing app full
Mm,
of resources and a community of people and blogs and help and medical information and quarterly challenges and group coaching. Like I that's the stuff that I love doing, because
mm.
it kind of helps reach people right in their living rooms to get the
Amazing.
help they need.
That's amazing. How did that come about with Dr. Tro? How did he approach you with working with him, or did you approach
Yeah.
him?
It was kind of, I think it was actually, I think I was still his patient, and I thought I was already working, doing something in low carb.
Mm,
Um, and I remember thinking, I remember saying to him, I think I want to become a health coach because
mm.
I just, I can't unknow what I know.
Right.
And I think we kind of thought about it at the same time. And he said something,
Mm,
and I didn't think he was serious. And then a couple more months went by, and I started going for my health coaching certification, and it kind of just all the stars aligned. I think it was the right fit. We get along well,
yeah.
and I live very nearby. I live in Manhattan, and he's has offices right outside of Manhattan. So we were I could be in the office a few days a week, and it just sort of all just kind of all worked out.
Mm,
And it's been, I think, 4 or 5 years now. I
mm.
can't remember, but yeah, it's all
Wow.
it's the Yeah, it's well, life is interesting how it all sort of
Yeah,
does work
yeah,
out
it does. It
eventually.
does. We talked about if you knew what you knew now back then. But I would say to that is you can now help people who are there now, right?
Yeah,
I'm pissed too. I am pissed. If I knew what I knew now, I
yeah,
wouldn't. But again, if I didn't went through the things that I went through with depression at that dark place, I wouldn't be able to have this information or meet you right here.
yeah,
Meet the people that I look up to and adore because they've been helping people. They're true practitioners for me. You are one of those true practitioners because you actually been there. You've done that. You talked about Dr. Trobing, knowing where you've, uh, knowing the journey, right? Just
hmm,
knowing what you've been through, and that, like I said, to anyone that's listening, I don't be so discouraged if you're there now. Just keep going. You're If you keep trying, like Amy here, she has thrived because she kept on searching, right? I believe that if we just do that, keep on going, we're gonna get there eventually. Yeah, I
yeah.
love it.
I said, I have a number of blog posts out
Mm-hmm.
on our app, and I often will tell people, people are like, oh, you have so much willpower, you're so amazing, this and that. Like it's a huge transformation. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna. I know that I have a very dramatic before and after picture, but the truth of the matter is, what is so exceptional about me is how unexceptional I am. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I got really, really bad advice for very many years. And I finally got the right advice. And it was at the right time in my life where
Right.
my stress was down. I didn't have there are a lot of things that I didn't have to worry about at that by the time I was at that point. Um, but I think what is exceptional about me is that I just keep going, right?
Mm.
That I didn't give up before that point, or
That's right.
that even, I mean, even with a ketogenic diet, like I tell my clients now, like it is the easiest way that I've ever tried to lose weight. But I have a very difficult relationship with food, and even with a ketogenic diet being the easiest way that I've ever tried to lose weight, doesn't mean that it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean, and it so it's still difficult to walk around this world and be faced with constant sort of
Mm-hmm.
food pushers everywhere, stores on every corner,
Right.
every grocery store, every Starbucks. I live in Manhattan. Every 4 feet, there's something.
Mm-hmm.
There's food that looks good and
Yep.
smells good, and I'm still human, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still sort of, even though I don't see those foods often as food anymore, it's still,
Right.
I have years of a difficult relationship with food, whether you want to call it food addiction or whatever you want to call it. It still plagues me.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been so transformative for me that I'm not going back. I'm not
Mm.
going back. So, yeah.
That's powerful because you've been there. What's good for you? You've reversed pre-diabetes, depression. You've lost 225 pounds. You know this is the right way to heal, and you have that why. You have that. I always tell people you have to reinforce that why because if you just want to lose weight, I know that may take you far, but it might not take you all the way. So if you can reinforce that, why do you want to lose weight? I want to get healthy. Well, why do you want to get healthy? Keep asking that question until you get to a point where your why is solid, right? Whenever you're met with a decision, right, of, oh, should I eat this, should I not eat this, you can go back to that why. And if your why is strong enough, you'll be able to resist, right? Because like you said, we are still human, right? Of course, I I still have the urge to have that, right? And like you said, we are in a society that doesn't have our best interest, right?
Yeah.
There's Starbucks in every corner, right? When you go to the grocery store, there's box items that are, I call them franken foods too, right?
Yeah.
They're fake foods to me now, but you got to find that why. You got to learn about it. And people ask me, "Hey, um how do you do it? Like how do you stay consistent?" Right? Again, that why comes to play, right? You got to know how to answer to those people, because guess what? If you don't know how to answer why you're on a ketogenic diet, that may be an opportunity for you to sway them, right, in your
Mm,
direction. Or if you know that they're just trying to argue with you, then you need to back up and say, hey, this might not be a conversation to have, because you know somebody who just are waiting for you to stop talking and say what they want to say. But again, there's a few there that there's a few people there that may genuinely want to know more about the ketogenic diet. And
yeah.
you having to educate yourself about keto and why it's working, how the body works, that's an opportunity for you to sway them, and so that they can heal as well, right? So
Yeah.
powerful stuff.
I think, yeah, there's a couple, I had a couple thoughts while you were talking. One is, we often, in our program, we have a 24-week medical weight loss
Mm-hmm.
program. We often ask people almost weekly or sometimes daily early in the program, like, what your why?
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people sometimes your why is really important and meaningful. For me, it was like not suffering the fate that my mother had,
Mm-hmm.
but passing away very suddenly and unexpectedly and very early. And then sometimes it's going to be as superficial as I want to wear that dress to that party
Mm-hmm.
on that date, right? It doesn't always have to be deep and meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Can change
That's right.
day to day and hour to hour, even whatever it takes to
Mm-hmm.
get you to put one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always have to be meaningful and deep,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the other thing is, I think for me, what has shifted over the last, I would say, 2 years or so is I have made the connection between, even more than early on, as I've made the connection between how do I feel when I'm eating a certain way and how do I feel when I'm not. And for me, like if I eat something that's a little carbier now on occasion, or
Mm-hmm.
over the holidays or something, I almost immediately feel it in my knees and my joints. My stomach
Absolutely.
hurts, my skin, the eczema comes back, as I talked about earlier. And that to me, in so many ways, like I exercise very regularly now, and I am so much more motivated by, oh, if you eat that, you're going to have a stomach ache tomorrow, and your knees are going to kill you, and you're not going to be able to run, and you're not going to be able to sort of walk around and feel good in your skin. And that is so much more
Mm-hmm.
powerful and motivating to me now than
Mm-hmm.
some theoretical arbitrary number on a scale that I may or may not
Mm-hmm.
hit. We can't really control the number on the scale. We
Yeah.
can only control sort of the things that we do
Mm-hmm.
to get ourselves to the place where the scale may move. Um,
Mm.
and I think kind of tapping into that intuitive piece of it, of like I did a program a couple of, I guess it was about 2 months ago now, basically about intuitive weight loss using a low carb diet. And I think if you can tap into sort of how that feels and what
Mm-hmm.
we innately want for ourselves, which is to feel good in our bodies,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's way more powerful than any kind of I want to be X number on the scale. What does that really
Mm.
mean anyway?
Mm.
So I just think it's important to, as you said, to discover your why,
Mm.
and it may change day to day and hour to hour.
Mm. You know what you talked about? For me, it's what's important is, again, you said it, like feeling good, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to feel good. If you're feeling good, you don't, because people get so dogmatic with what they eat, right? Especially if you're on a carnivore diet, a keto diet, anything in between, right? When people say, "Hey, oh, that's not keto, that's not carnivore, or whatnot," um, if you're eating blueberries on the carnivore diet, oh, right, they tell you, "Hey, that's not carnivore."
Yeah.
But I mean, if eating blueberries on a carnivore diet makes it a lot sustainable for you, right? Then do that. I mean, if you feel good, because we tolerate different foods, right? We all are different. If you can tolerate it, fine. A lot of people may tolerate more dairy than others. Do
Hmm.
that if it makes it more sustainable for you, right? Of course. For me, I'm all about sustainability and looking at it long term, right? And for some people, they may think of this as a tool, and which is okay, right? That's fine. You can use this as a weight loss tool, and that's what keto is for sometimes, right? But also, you can't you can't also deprive yourself, right? Because um, when people think of the keto diet, it's depriving yourself of foods that you like. Well, you can also tailor your diet to the foods you already like. Like I said, you can have bacon, you can have cheese, right? You can have steak. Think about those things, and also follow people along the way where, if there are some influencers that are really good on social media that you can follow, where they eat clean foods and also make recipes too that makes it sustainable for them. Well, you got to be really into this, right? You can't half-ass your
Hmm.
diet, because this is your life, this is your lifestyle, this is your health, right? And along the way, you'll pick up things that may work for you and not work for others, right? So you gotta be. For me, I've been on this for 3-4 years now, and I'm still tweaking, still tweaking, and what makes me feel good and what doesn't, right? I'm still testing. I'm still picking up things from you today that I may adapt, right? And then I'll try it myself. It doesn't work for my lifestyle, it doesn't. But if it does, great. I'm gonna keep using it until it doesn't, right? So that's my mentality when it comes to a lifestyle. Is if I feel good, I feel good, right? And that's at the end of the day is the best, is the gauge, right? Not the scale. I agree, but if you feel good, then you should tap yourself on the back and say, hey, I did well today. I had a client come to me say, hey, I only lost about 5 pounds this month.
Oh,
No, sorry, this month. I'm like,
yeah.
some people would be happy with a pound a week, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you got to trust yourself enough that you are progressing. Give yourself some credit.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point. It's important to be able to tweak and adjust. I
Mm,
mean, one of the things that I see a lot of mistakes I see a lot of people making is they're kind of constantly going with the whatever the last influencer they heard or they read,
mm,
that's what they're doing. And so they're changing their what they're doing and they're tweaking things literally daily, and every day they're trying, today I'm going to do carnivore, tomorrow I'm going to do an egg fast, and then I'm going to
mm,
not have dairy, and then and I'm like, just slow down.
mm.
Just try one thing. Let's see how that goes. Keep your carbs low. Just how does your body feel? It's. I think you have to be willing to tweak, but I also think you need to be willing to give it some time.
Mm,
This is not a diet that you're going to go on or off of.
yeah.
This is you're just gonna. It's a continuum.
Mm,
So how are you going to make tomorrow a little better than yesterday?
mm,
You have to be willing to adjust, but you also need to kind of give those adjustments some time to work. You're never going to
mm.
know if you just
Yeah.
kind of every day is another
Yeah, exactly.
thing.
Exactly. Because if you're looking for different diets every single day, then you're just following a trend, right?
Hmm.
And those people would see, most of them would say keto is a fad diet. I'm on to the next, right? What's the next? Because honestly, you can't just follow what the media is saying, right? Right now it's plant based. Tomorrow it's this. Tomorrow it's keto. Tomorrow it's just I don't know what it will be, right? They make up stuff sometimes. I want to ask you, what advice do you have for individuals who want to consider adopting this lifestyle, right? I know you've given me so much, but if you would boil it down to just one.
Yeah. I would say tap into, like, try to really just prioritize the foods that make you hungry and the foods that make you keep eating and eating,
Mm,
and the foods that keep you full and not hungry and not wanting to eat more because
mm,
you're full. You can count your macros, you can count your carbs, you can count your calories if you want, you can do all of that stuff, but hunger is always going to win. And so if you can't find a way to satisfy your hunger and quiet that drive to eat, um, it's that's going to always win out.
mm,
How are you going to handle it? And how are you going to handle social situations? And how are
yeah.
you going to handle all that stuff? So, really, addressing hunger and that drive to eat
Mm,
is really I think, at the core of all of this.
mm. That's powerful. I want to ask you too. your vision for yourself, for your future. You're a coach. You've started with your personal journey, and then your career as a health coach and an advocate. Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? Are you working with, you're working with Dr. Cho right now?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, so I work with for Dr. Tro as a health coach. I'm the program
mhm,
director for all of the programs that we're developing. I see myself just personally in terms of my own health journey. I just want to get stronger and fitter
mhm,
and just work on strength training some more, but also just professionally. I want to just keep helping as many people as possible.
mhm,
We all at Dr. Tro's practice, we all have a vision for growing this and really helping as many people as possible. There are so many people that are struggling.
mhm,
Um, and so many people that don't get it, that so many practitioners, so many diets that don't really understand how to help people. I think we could teach people all day long about macros and about carbs and about carb, how important carb reduction is, but there are very few people, even among the low carb people and doctors, that understands food relationship and that drive to eat and that compulsion to eat. And when you can combine the two, the way that we have, the way that I have personally, and the way that Tro has personally, and the way that we are working to do as a practice, to combine that carb restriction with understanding that drive to eat and that relationship to food and emotional eating and stress eating and all of the whatever you want to call it. I think if you can combine all of that, I think that really is what I'm passionate
mhm,
about, is really helping people, because so many people come to us, they have the intellect, they have the knowledge, they follow all the same
mhm,
influencers, they follow all the same social media feeds, they've read all the books and they have all the things. But if you don't know what that it's like to walk around in
mhm,
shoes that are 400-pound shoes,
mhm,
um, it's that's what I get passionate about, is helping people, helping those
mhm.
people.
I'll congratulate you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I want to tell people it's, you talked about it too. It may be a simple change, right? It doesn't mean easy, right? This is a
Hmm.
journey. We are all on a journey. I'm still, like I said, I am still, trying to get better and optimize my health. And like you want to get stronger. That's my goal too. So it's really a journey, right, towards optimizing yourself, right? So if you're at that point where you need help, right, there are people out there that can help you, right? Like like uh like Dr. Tro's practice, like your coaching program. um I want to be able to share to people you, or how to connect with you, Amy.
Sure. So you can reach me through, if you're interested in working with Tro or myself, either through our medical weight loss program or with health coaching. You can reach me at drtro.com,
Mm,
Doctor, doctor spelled out, drtro.com, or you can direct message me on Twitter. It's AMYDEE1001. I have to change that at some point, make it a little easier, but that's on Twitter. But yeah, drtro.com, and anybody, you can reach out to the front desk and they can reach out to me there. Um, yeah, and then we have an awesome app. You can message me on our the Dr. Tro app, um, which I encourage everybody to join. It's free to download. There's a free community. There's a bunch of free resources. We have quarterly challenges and just to help people get restarted and reset in January, and all sorts of great stuff on there. So yeah, any of those places.
awesome. We'll link everything down below so you guys can check that out.
I appreciate it.
Amy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing
Thank
your
you.
story.
Thank you so much for having
All
me.
right.